My name is Timothy Harmon. I am the spokesperson for the Jefferson County General Assembly. And today we're going to be talking about birth certificates. And I believe that birth certificates are very misunderstood. Um, so the discussion today will be why they're important or why they're not important. The reality is, yes, they are important because if a person wants to move in commerce, it makes it very easy for them to do so. Now, is a birth certificate constitutional? Well, yes and no. It just depends on how you look at it. Do you have to have a birth certificate? No. The answer is absolutely not. You do not have to have a birth certificate. You do not have to have a baptismal certificate. A baptismal certificate, uh, I'll mention briefly in just a moment, because there are three jurisdictions on the planet that we basically work out of: the jurisdiction of the land, the jurisdiction of the sea, and the jurisdiction of the air. So, the jurisdiction of the air is overseen by the Pope, and in that jurisdiction, he takes care of trusts. Well, the birth certificate is a trust. It is a trust created when you were born. Now, what happens is you have people who are in commerce, which is the jurisdiction of the sea. And those folks use that birth certificate, that trust, to their advantage. Because what happens is a birth certificate, when a person is born, an infant, you have no name. You are granted a name by your parents. So my name is Timothy Allen of the House of Harmon. That being true, I am without a name, but my parents grant me that name as my inheritance. So the name is not me, but I own the name. All right. So in that way, then when I work in trade or in commerce with that name, people can recognize who I am because of the name. But I am not the name. I am me. I am myself. I am I. But the name is a description of my value. And for example, my house, my car, or anything of value that I might own, if I own a boat or if I own a spaceship, they would say that's Timothy Harmon's, but not Timothy Harmon. Timothy Harmon is the name that is used to encompass everything that I am and that I own. All right, so what happens is when these folks put together a birth certificate, when you're born, the mother deals with the birth certificate. And being that the mother deals with the birth certificate, the father is there, but is not the guy in charge. They do this on purpose because they're not really allowed to deal with a man. Okay, so at the jurisdiction of the sea, everything is registered. That's just the way it is. They register, for example, your car is registered, your house has a title which is registered, for example, by them. Now, that doesn't make it proper, that doesn't make it righteous. I'm just saying that everything that they do is registered. So they register the name. They do this because they cannot do business with you. They're not allowed to do business with you in that jurisdiction of the sea because you're a man. That's two different jurisdictions. So they create a name. And your parents, they actually allow your parents to create the name, and then they steal it. Quite frankly, they create this trust fund in your name through a birth certificate. They manage that trust fund. They put insurance on that trust fund, And that trust fund grows in value to be hundreds of millions of dollars. They don't tell you that, but that's what the value is. For example, um, well, let's start at the beginning. In 1795, uh, there's a Supreme Court decision, Penholland versus Doan's Administrators, in where it says that all governments are corporations and they are dead entities, they are man made. So it would be like a man building a chair. Now you can sit on the chair, but the chair is not the man. The man sits in the chair. So a corporation is something that is built by a man for man's use. That being said, the corporation can't tell the man what to do. And Supreme Court ruled that no corporation can do business with a living man because there's no way that a chair is going to tell the man, I want you to build me with 5 legs. It doesn't work that way. So the corporation is a dead entity and cannot do business with a living man. That's why they take your name that they put on this birth certificate into court, but they don't take the man into court. Remember, I said, I'm the man and I'm granted the name. I'm not the name. The name is my inheritance that was granted to me, but I'm not the man. The name, I'm the man. So they take the name that they put on the birth certificate into court. Now, in order to straighten this whole thing out, this is what has to happen. The woman signs the birth certificate, and they take that certificate to the courthouse, the government, and they register that at the courthouse. So now they have a way of doing business with you. So they can do business with you in commerce. That's the jurisdiction of the sea. But you don't have to do business with them. You're not in commerce, you're in trade. Okay, so a man works at trade, but a woman signs a birth certificate creating a registration that is in commerce. Now, in order to get around all of this, what happens is they never teach you this in school. It's sad, but the schools are operated by a corporation. They are corporately funded schools. So they are operated by the government, which is a corporation. Just like McDonald's is a corporation, so is the government. Okay, so you wouldn't go into McDonald's to pay your property taxes. All right. You wouldn't go into government to the McDonald's to pay income taxes. Only federal employees pay income taxes. Only federal employees pay property taxes. Now, this is going to sound very strange, but you have to figure this out. Okay. So what happens is you have a birth certificate that is a name that they take into their court. Now, their court is a British equity court. It is administrative. It's not judicial. There are no judicial courts in the United States. There haven't been since 1789. Okay? They are administrative. They are operated through the President of the United States. Congress creates laws, and the President regulates those laws through the courts. The judicial system, the justices, all they do is they say, yes, it's constitutional, no, it's not constitutional. But that's only within the corporation. That's not within a man. I am at common law. I am not at corporate law. I am not a commercial vessel. I am a vessel at trade, which is on the land jurisdiction. This is really very simple, and yet people try to make it complicated, and it doesn't have to be. So there is a birth certificate created in your name that allows you to work as a vessel in commerce, but you don't have to use it. There is that birth certificate actually proves that you are a man who is alive. Okay. but you have to make that claim. Okay, so in making that claim, what you do is the father or a man, somebody who's 18 or 21, has to go to the courthouse. You take a, you can go to my website, which I have right here in front of you. It's Jefferson County Jural Assembly.org. The that is going to be found on my website, which is also the Sovereign Church of Refuge.org. Now, do not be concerned that it's a church website. I I can tell you God is God and religion is religion, and they are two different things. Okay? All religion is man made. Everything else is God made. But for political purposes, a church is very lucrative in the fact that you can use it to work through other commerce or not. My church is not in commerce, it's an actual church. But as a man, sovereign man, who is born on the soil of Pennsylvania, who is established in the jurisdiction or at the jurisdiction of the land, I can work in commerce. So I have a church that I could work in commerce. It would be no different than having a hardware store. Now, that hardware store could be incorporated and work in commerce, or it doesn't have to be. It can work at trade. A man can work in commerce, but commerce cannot work with a man because commerce is dead. Remember, the chair I built does not tell me what to do, and government does not tell me what to do because I created the government. It is a dead entity. It's not alive, it's man made. Now, the Constitution that we created allows the government to do 19 enumerated things. 19. That's it. Everything else that Congress does, everything else that the government does, is not constitutional. All right? So, what they do is they take your name that you have to own. So you go to the court or you go to the courthouse and you take your names, you make up a deed. You'll find this deed on my website. You can copy the deed, take my names off, take the dates off, take your birthday, everything, put it onto your deed. Handwrite it if you have to. Take it to the courthouse and file that deed. Record the deed. So a deed is recorded. A birth certificate is registered. Two different jurisdictions. Everything a man does is recording a deed on the land, and it cannot be touched by commerce. In other words, when you go into court and you have your deeds in place, you make out a habeas corpus or whatever you need to do, and then you have to have them prove jurisdiction. If they cannot prove jurisdiction, and they cannot prove jurisdiction over man because they are a dead entity. And the chair cannot tell the creator of the chair what to do. So you have to prove. Now it's already been proven that you're a man. When you go into court, if you say, I'm a man on the soil of Pennsylvania at the land jurisdiction at common law, it's over. They know who you are. Now they're going to ask you that 3 times because they ask every question 3 times. That's for the record. It only makes sense that they want to make sure they are clear as to who you are. So, I'm a man on the land at common law. It's pretty simple. All right. So, that being said, they have to prove that you are in their jurisdiction, and they can't do that. Now, the thing is, at common law, or at any law, if you harm or injure somebody or something that they have or own, if you run over somebody's shrubs with your car, you're liable for it. If you bang them in the head and they're half dead or if they're dead, you're liable for it. All right. There's no getting out of it. You're liable. All right. But that being said, a speeding ticket, well, whose fault is it? Doesn't really matter. The problem that people run into is they don't understand jurisdiction. So they don't understand the birth certificate. the birth certificate, what is done with the birth certificate is they create a dead entity. A dead entity. It's called a straw man, but it's a dead entity, and they take that dead man into court. Well, people don't know that they're taking a dead man into court. See, I'm the man, remember? And my name belongs to me. So I take my deeds, which say my name, Timothy Allen Harmon, and I move that name onto the land jurisdiction, onto the soil of Pennsylvania. Now, the soil is not the land, they're two different things. The soil is where I was born. The land is a political status, it's a jurisdiction, two different things. So I put my name on the soil of Pennsylvania at the land jurisdiction. All right. Once I've done that, then if they say, well, you were going too fast down the road, and I can say, you're in the wrong jurisdiction because my names are mine. I make out a certificate of assumed name, which says that that name belongs to me. Well, it's always belonged to me, but I have the paperwork to prove it. So when I go into court and I show them that, then it's over because I become the priority creditor and the subrogee. Now, I realize that it's taken me about 4 years to understand everything that I'm talking about. But the birth certificate does not have to be something you get upset about. It's something that you have to understand. And what you need to understand is you have to own that name on paper. You have to record a deed in your name at the courthouse, taking your names, your various names, because they make up various names. One's all capital letters, one's partially capital letters. When I was born, my name was in all small letters. When I work in commerce or at trade, it's a capital with small letters, a capital with small letters. When you work only in commerce under the municipal corporation at sea, it's all capital letters. But that's a different language and that's a different jurisdiction than the one in all small letters. It doesn't have to be complicated. But what you need to understand is that the birth certificate is not an enemy. The birth certificate is just needs to be understood that it's something you can use for your own benefit. You have the birth certificate authenticated, and there's a process that you go through. You send it into the state, they send it back. You send it into the feds, they send it back. And when it's authenticated, what that means is you understand that you own your name. That in itself, if you were to take that into court, would establish your name because it's been authenticated and you're holding it in your hand. All right. Now you don't want to be making people upset by waving it in the courtroom. No. But what you can do is just say, I have the authenticated copy. I own my names. Do you understand? And when you say something like that, then the judge is going to go, "Get out of my courtroom! Get away, go, get out." And I've heard about that happening. I recently watched a video where a guy said he went into court doing this kind of thing, and he had 72 counts against him, and all he did was say, "I don't know what you're talking about. I am a man. I don't know what you're talking about. You know, I'm on the land, and you haven't proven jurisdiction." And they told him to leave. They just told him to leave because they have no jurisdiction over a man because their court is a British equity court. It's actually run by the British. I can tell you that straight up. The Bar Association, BAR, is the British Accreditation Registry. British Accreditation Registry. It's a British court. The British Courts of Equity in the United States. That's what they are. And You don't want to be paying the British. Why would you want to pay Burger King? Why would you want to pay McDonald's? Your taxes, your good money. You can figure this out. I'm going to be making more videos down the road. So I hope that this has helped you out. And, I appreciate everybody. Go to my website again. It's sovereignchurchofrefuge.org, or the same website is the Jefferson County Choral Assembly.org. And read the information. If you have questions, write to me. My phone number's on there. Call me. Whatever you think you want to do, email me. And, have a wonderful day, guys.